I'm just waiting for Steve to tell me we're good to go.
And we're recording and live to YouTube.
Alrighty, so I would like to call this joint meeting of the school board and select board to order. It is Wednesday, 9 November 2022. I wanted to quickly go around the table and announce who we are. So I'm Rich Rita, the chair of the select board. Freeze member, select board.
Lindsay Costello, principal of elementary school. Tina Martin, assistant superintendent, SCD 48. Brooke Wakefield, recreation director for the town of Martin Valley.
Mike Fargo, school board chair. Tim Smith, school board member. Mark Chipotle, town manager.
Margaret Turner, vice chair of the board.
Great, and is David gonna come at some point? I think you guys wanted to talk about the fire alarms.
Will you be here?
What's that?
Would you like him to be here?
I think it's part of the CIP.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, okay, great. So, thank you, Steve.
no problem.
All righty, so let's just, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's just run down the discussion items. Why don't we start with CIP, because I think that's the major thing we wanna roll through.
Yeah, so at your places, I've updated the capital improvements program for the town 23 through 29. Based on comments that were made at the last selectmen's meeting when you took your first look at it.
Right,
As well as going through with department heads again. So this is the latest iteration of what we're looking for townwide for capital program. It doesn't include any specific school projects on it yet. I think integrating whatever you have coming up would be a good idea. I guarantee you that this is the largest CIP for any town in the state with 750 people at 44.5 million.
Yeah.
So, and then the other sheet that you have is just our existing debt service payments. This would be the starting point for 1 January 2023. It does include all bonding authorizations that we have been given year to date, except for $4 million towards the wastewater treatment plant project. That has been approved by governor and council for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, but we won't make any payments on those or have any amortization information until we put the new plant into operation. And that is anticipated to be somewhere around October of 2026. So I would anticipate that the first debt service payment on that would be in 27. The others,
Just to be clear, so I
Yeah.
understand, the first debt service payment on the $34 million would be in 2027?
yes,
Is that-
34 plus 4 that have already been
Approved.
Okay, so it's 38 total, but it'll be less than the 38 million because of grants
Right.
and loan forgiveness and all that. But for those authorizations, no debt service will be issued until 2026, and then the first payment is in 27.
2027.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the $4 million?
Same, the 4 million will get wrapped into the
Okay.
34 million.
So we're looking at this big expense going up on a tax bill for a capital, we can be 2020.
27, 2027. Come on up, David.
Be the December, right?
So it would be yes, because the July bill in 2027 is gonna be 1/2 of the 2026 bill. I will ask for DRA special dispensation because we know it's coming. We'll be able to tell them how much it is. We will probably ask to up that July bill so that this huge amount doesn't hit in December. But that's way down the road.
So I mean, it's possible that we can, if something was existing debt or not incur additional debt between now and 26 to free up capacity.
Well, none of that is on here.
Right.
Right. Right, so that will be something that the select board will be looking at is something, let's, as an example, the road repaving and sidewalks project, that's $1,250,000 for 2023. We may do, instead of bonding that as we would have in the past, we may pay for some or all of that in 1 year, just to alleviate adding any more debt service onto this.
Right, because
Right.
we have this 3-year.
We have the 3-year period.
3-year
That's
window that.
That's correct.
Right.
And so there are other things in this project or in this list, including an ambulance, a fire truck. We've got dredging the pond. There's a lot of different projects. And we've started front loading into that 3-year window before we start the big.
I mean, we anticipate that to be about $4, $5 on the,
Well,
maybe even $6.
it'll be multi parts, right? There'll be the debt service,
Right.
and there'll be additional operating costs, which will be a significant increase. But yeah, our debt service could be $2.50 to $3 just for the principal and interest payments. That doesn't include any additional operating. Because the new plant is totally different than what we currently have. So
How firm are you on that number?
I'm working with
34.
34 million. Well, we're actually, that's part of the conversation with engineers today and next Wednesday. It's right now, that's our best estimate,
So that's prior to
but that's prior to grants and
grants
loans.
and
Yeah.
definitely,
Right now, we're looking at anywhere from 20 to 25 million for debt service.
yeah,
Net,
25 years.
over 25 years. So we're looking at, like I said, anywhere from 2.5 to
3.5.
$3 per thousand. So
And that's on top of the 5 million that's already been authorized.
it includes.
So 20
But it doesn't include the operating costs,
It doesn't include the operating.
which would, and do it.
And we're actually as worried about that because this plant is gonna run 24/7 instead of 8 hours a day.
And ideally,
Electricity costs and chemical costs are gonna be much more than what we currently use.
we're looking at what, 4 people
And we're looking at
instead of 2.
potentially 4 instead of 2 people. And the operators themselves have different licensing requirements that are probably gonna be more expensive as well. So we got a lot of work to do, but that's our,
What kind of yearly operating costs are we currently doing? That sounds like we're double that.
we're gonna at least double it. 400 to
All in.
450 all
Yeah.
in. So could be upwards of $1 million
Added to the 2.
added to the
3 million.
2.5, so that's another almost $2
Right.
on the tax rate,
So-
that's $1.75, so now we're talking
For the
$4,
Six.
4.5.
Yeah.
So
Electricity alone,
the electricity alone is,
triple.
Yeah.
Potentially.
So I have this on my list is just what's a penny worth now after the reevaluate?
$495,000,
because we're at 495.
because we're at
495.
495 in valuation. Now, that does not include the 12 units at Green Peak. It does not include all the value of the first half of Green Peak. So that will add, tens of millions, but not anything
Right, but,
super appreciative.
just to do the math for the presentations, we always do this is the increase, decrease, I just gotta be able to say what the math is.
So we got a lot of work to do with those numbers, but we now have the first draft of the 60% design for the new plant. And so the numbers are starting to get firm on their recommended options.
And they should be quite firm by the end of the year.
And they will be because
Right.
we intend to go to town meeting in March.
Right.
And it'll be the communications piece of this is important, but we need authorization so that we can apply for the state revolving fund monies. We need the authorization for what we think the whole plant will
Gross,
cost,
gross amount.
the gross amount. So before the grants and all of that. So we're gonna be, probably the warrant article is about this 34 million, which will give us 38 million total to use towards the plan.
So are there options for this? And my understanding was assuming like to the 60%, then free you to look at different,
We are gonna look at other options because right now,
is that going to be for March or is that?
no,
Okay.
no, it will. My intent, if we decide to do it this way, would be to ask for the worst case authorization.
Got it.
Because it doesn't spend any money, it
Yeah,
just gives
got it.
you the law. So,
Which is gonna be 34 to 38.
which is gonna be the 34 to 30. Yeah, probably.
Understood.
And the other issue here, I'm sorry, school folks, but the other issue that we're running up against is we must push the start button on the new plan by October of 26. That is a hard number, a hard date from the EPA. And so they've given us a waiver of our new permit requirements. They've given us a waiver until October of 26.
And what's the town doing this?
Millions of dollars. Yeah, because we would be in violation of our discharge permit.
50,000 a day.
Yeah, it's not anything we want to contemplate.
Yeah.
And now, can we go back to them? Yes, money is not a reason for them to extend that date. If we run into an operational issue, but they don't care that we think it's too expensive. We've already had that conversation with them.
Or it's not an issue, perhaps.
But construction issues.
That's amazing.
Then they might give us some more time, but that's the only way we're gonna get an extension to that drop dead date. So, did I forget anything? or-
No, that's the 800-pound elephant that's staring us in the face in a few years. That we need to make decisions on relatively soon.
If you guys need anything, maybe 2040.
Unless it's 25, but I think more like 2050.
The CIP that we don't, and we don't have.
I do actually, I do have it.
It's, the only thing that I think that's on the list is, a new fire system, new fire alarm system. That's why I wanted, there more, yeah. That's the question, that's $150,000, and that is forecast for next year. But there's no desperate need for it, is what we're being told, but now that hearing that we have this 3-year window. We probably want to get this done, not kick this can down the road past 2025. And that's the only thing that's on the CIP, because everything else is way out, but not even it's not even significant. We do have ongoing technology that happens every year, but that's not anything we're gonna warrant. So the 150 would be the big item.
Yeah, and just looking at the bottom line here on the second page, if you can consider it, I would recommend that you look at 24.
Yeah.
Because it fits, we already have 500,000 in cash. Projects, smaller projects that we're not gonna bond. So it goes down to 305 in 24, so maybe you could put it in there.
Sure.
I mean, if it's not an immediate need.
And this is why we wanted.
Yeah,
To hear his point of view.
Why don't you go ahead, David?
Well, my first question is, what's inadequate about it right now?
Exact location, so it does the zones, it's not. And from my understanding, it's also technology that's, pretty old, so some of the sprinklers are pretty old, so it's due to be, it's hit the time where we would bring it up on our 10-year CIP.
Okay.
So if it's something that we feel is still operational and, fits the needs, we could push it a few years, but I know, I believe some of those sprinkler heads are they're getting pretty old.
Well, there's the alarm system and then there's the sprinkler system.
Yeah, I think that's
Two different, so it's just the alarm
So
system.
that, I think it's zone based and not pinpoint based, so, so when the alarm goes off, you're told it's either in the rec department, or it's in the multi-purpose room area, or it's in the back area, and it's so.
It's pretty typical around here.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of endpoint based.
Yeah.
Fire alarm systems here.
Mhm.
I think Jason is also concerned with the aging, circuit boards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that are in there, and we haven't had any problems with them yet. Sure. But he doesn't know what the availability of them, because he hasn't worked. Yeah, I know your horns and strobes could certainly use some updating. They're still operational, but that's where I typically see the age. I know when we practice the fire drills and going around and see that sort of thing. One recommendation, for the town to consider is we had talked in the safety meetings, and as now that the preschool is going on, I would make the recommendation of tying in the Curious George Cottage to that system, just because if there's an issue at the school and vice versa, that they share, that be either whether it's in separate zones on there. I would just have that recommendation, just being a school, that if there was a fire at the school, it is gonna affect the preschool also. I know they currently have the infrastructure in place from the old system that's no longer in use, so it really doesn't need a lot of retrofitting, but certainly I would recommend that it just be on the table for discussion when you're looking at.
So that was on the plans for this year, but we're not gonna, I think we're agreed that we're not gonna do this year. There's no immediate need. Right.
Yeah, and I'm comfortable with the system as it
Yeah,
is right
so,
now.
so we have no immediate need from you. Circuit boards, we need to do some research on that, so, and if it turned out that we had to do this, the recommendations, look at, 24.
Yeah, March of 24.
Okay. And outside of that, we don't have any other, big things. In 2027, we'll get $170,000 for a maintenance makeover, but I think, why, we'll revisit that when we get closer. They were just they're just filling cells in the spreadsheet at this point.
Well, I mean, unless anyone has anything else on the CIP.
What's that?
Was there HVAC somewhere?
Yeah, in 2028, 250,000, so we're.
27,
Yeah. And that's just something that we're looking at towards the future, but it's not something that is, it's just a placeholder.
Right.
We haven't had any problems, it's not old. Probably can't wait until 2040, but.
Yeah, right.
2052.
It's either before 2027 or after 2050. If you can make it. We're trying. I don't think we're gonna get there.
We're not.
We're not.
We're gonna have a lot of stuff.
Your current students' children.
Grandchildren. So, if we're down to CIP, why don't we actually stay on the money topic for a minute, because this is another one of those big events, and maybe something of a black swan, which is the educational funding, which could hit you guys, pretty heavily. So Mark, can you give us an update on?
Yeah, the coalition communities has filed a motion to intervene in the injunction that was heard on Friday.
Can you back
Yeah.
up? I'll take everybody even aware.
Okay, so there was a case brought by some residents of the town of Plymouth, the Grafton Superior Court, asking that the state be forced to collect the statewide education property tax amounts. Originally, they were talking about the 2023 amounts. However, they amended their case last week. And on Friday, the hearing was for the 2022 amounts. Well, we've already sent our tax bills out. for. In the case of Waterville Valley, that's $427,000 or so. Approximately 334,000 of that is what's considered excess. So we would have to write a $334,000 check to the state for that excess sweat. Now, that's out of what we just sent out for bills. So how we do that is unclear. Could mean that we would have to send a supplemental tax bill, collect that money and send it to the state or whatever. But that was the hearing that was held on Friday. There's a group of towns that are in the same situation that we are, called coalition communities. And we filed a motion to intervene in the case so that the court would hear our side of the case. The judge has not ruled on that yet. We're expecting that ruling at any time. Don't know if he will grant it or not, but the plaintiffs objected to us participating, filed a motion with the court today to object to us participating in the case. I don't know how good of an objection it is, but they don't want us to participate.
State of New Hampshire.
And the state of New Hampshire right now is that citizens of Plymouth, not the town. Well, their claim is that the DRA has been illegal taxing people because they have not been collecting the sweat and redistributing, i.e. donor communities. They've been allowing towns to utilize the statewide education property taxes in their own school districts, like we do every year. There are a couple of unincorporated, very small towns that actually have negative tax rates. And that was the first objection that these people brought to the court. Then they amended theirs and said, oh no, you've got excess. You've got communities that are utilizing excess sweat that they're not entitled to.
To lower their tax
To
rate
lower their.
for all other operations.
That's right, which, no, we're using it for education, but it has the effect of
Lowering its tax rate.
so, there, I don't know how, I mean, this would be a major step for the judge to grant this, and, you know, I'm sure that the state would file an immediate appeal to the Supreme Court, because this has already been decided a couple of times at the Supreme Court level, that what we're doing is okay. But that it is in the works, and it is a possibility of another big tax bill for us
For 2020,
for
but it can
2022.
also come out in
Yes.
2023.
And then he could still rule that leave 22 alone because those tax rates are set, but he could order it for 23. And if he does that, then our excess sweat goes up to over 500, closer to 600,000.
Because that tax break in 2022.
Because we got a tax break in
Goes
22
away.
out of the extra 25 million was distributed. That's why our bill went down to 427,000. So, that, again, I don't know what the judge will do, but we are fighting it and getting ready to present our case. We're putting together the intervention.
How does this supposed to work in other things?
In Plymouth, they levy a sweat, just like we do.
Yeah.
They utilize the sweat and education or local education tax, but they get a big check from the state because they're being subsidized, right? Is that right?
How will they get subsidized? Where's that money coming from?
It comes from the state education.
This what money that we put in?
No. Well, yeah, no,
It's a
it's
really
not. SWIFT.
complicated,
It's,
a really complicated formula, and I want to have Ian.
yeah,
This income comes from, so we have meals and rooms tax, we have alcohol tax.
no, there are several payments that are made into that. All of the utility companies in the state, they don't pay SWIFT. So they're exempted from the SWIFT number because they pay separately. That goes into the state's education fund. Okay, and then they use that money. That's just one source, but there are other sources that the state budget funds the state education.
What about
lottery?
You know, yeah, whatever the source is, but they say that we're gonna provide you with X amount of dollars per student, okay, each year. And then they send those checks, but you have a town like Plymouth that has a lot of students, right? So they're getting a lot of credit, so they're getting that money. We, because our SWIFT already covers all of the money that the state would send us, we don't get that subsidy. You don't see it as a revenue, but it's being collected out of the SWIFT. And actually more than what we would be eligible for is being collected through the SWIFT. That's what the excess number is. So, but the education total budget is large enough that we utilize all of that SWIFT money for education.
Is that calculated per student basis? No, that's why it's all.
Well, it is. It's just like, well, it's,
Fixed cost.
but it, again,
Right.
that's right. And that's been the fight since 1999 is what goes into, well, the whole argument has been, what is the cost of inadequate education in the state? And nobody has been able to find a way to do that. Because what happens is if you put in the true overhead and everything else, the number is so large that the state's never gonna levy that kind of a tax. I mean, I think somebody did a calculation, it would be like a $12 per thousand tax rate if you counted the true cost of education in the state. So they lowered the number by picking and choosing what is part of the
Something like 4,000 per student.
Yeah,
or
it's,
Yeah.
something like that.
the formula's really complicated,
Yeah.
actually. It is.
So it's all based off per student.
It is.
And it's the same thing that harms us in everything, right? All of the COVID money that came to the state was all distributed based on population. They used the 2010 census,
And.
which was 233 people
You know,
for Waterville Valley.
Right.
So we got $25,000, which was nothing.
and they did it based on Title I criteria.
Ex-
So if your school, if your district doesn't receive Title I funding, you are not getting that extra money.
That's right.
Yeah.
Zero, big factor. So what came into the state, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? We got 25,000. You know, and we made the argument, we pointed it out, and everybody said, nice little lot of value. You guys
I
can
say
do it.
maybe 5 other towns. that-
Yeah, there's a bunch of other
Yeah,
towns
smaller,
that
yeah.
in the state. But his department's providing services for several thousand people during peak periods, right? And you've got the infrastructure of water and sewer that's equal to Plymouth.
Yep.
You know, or more. When you come right down. So.
Anything else on this?
Do we have any idea when the judge is gonna make up his mind?
He has 14 days to rule on the injunction unless he grants us intervening status, and then he would have to extend it, but he's supposed to rule. within 12 days.
Alrighty, let's jump back up to update on building improvements. Go back to.
Exciting project like that.
Right. And it came in a little bit under budget, not under budget, but I think we saved $35,000. So there wasn't much rock as we anticipated, which is helpful. I am curious to know when those big plans are gonna go away.
So they are due to be starting next week.
So that's related to the lighting project.
Okay.
So we're having delivery of additional materials that'll be starting and that's gonna be a much quicker project, so.
Will they be out before we expect snow, just so that,
Forecast wasn't expected on Sunday, but that's it. I still think they're gonna go out before the weekend.
I mean, plowable or really big. It's-
Yeah, I've heard that it's a very quick project, and I've been in schools before where they've done the lighting projects, and it goes pretty quick once they start.
So like roofing, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, they're just really going in and pulling out the old.
Yeah.
putting everything in.
All right. Anything?
I'll say this up. The sign is to be replaced, and that's, any news on that?
It's, no, warm weather is helpful for that.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Read this morning.
20.
Yeah, for 2 hours.
Anything else you guys want to talk about? No? Building updates? Okay, no, I think you had a continued collaboration efforts, was that? And athletics and scheduling, I think you guys added that to the.
Yeah, I think I think they're
The
the same
agenda.
thing really, but I think we're okay on scheduling. We're all set through.
Yeah, you guys are both saying yes?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
we already
yeah.
discussed that. I was surprised to see it on the agenda.
I was good, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I figured there was something else that we didn't know about, but no, we talked about it, worked it out.
Yeah,
I think so.
yeah, yeah, there was a couple days that, or there was one Friday that we were in the adjustment that we had to have our lesson.
Right,
And any concerns going forward that we need to talk about?
As for athletics.
Yeah. Or any
Team coming.
I don't.
No baseball team?
Baseball, softball would be hard to do with those shields.
Oh, there may be a place where you can have it.
I think the only thing that I can think of is, just to bring up a possibility of having access to the gymnasium, during the school day, like for a adult indoor cycling class. And I know that that's sort of a board issue at this point, unless it's not, and Lindsay and I can go forward with doing that. I don't know what the status is. Because since before COVID, as you recall, we were in the gym doing, it's not open gym and cycling. And now with more kids, they're in the gym more often, so there's less time to do that, but I don't think that was the real reason. I think it was because of COVID. So I do have a lot of adults wanting to get in for adult programming that's, cycling specifically.
Was, if I recall, was it something to do with the bathrooms?
No,
Some of our kids in bathrooms were an issue that.
So I can speak to that because we did have to close that area for a while with the construction. And we've got 2 other bathrooms, that are single occupancy, so it's open to anybody. But the kids have used some of the students that, like our middle school mainly uses those bathrooms that the rec shares, but they also still come down to the other bathrooms. So as for the bathrooms, it's really not, we haven't had any issues when we had to close those 2 bathrooms before.
just be 1 hour. I think the class is 45 minutes and the in and out setup would be 15 minutes, so.
Everything.
No, not every day, no.
So we could look at it.
Yeah, it would probably.
And this one of our students is the security issues and, make sure the students are
Mhm.
interacting and that with the people that are.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can keep that door closed and I can work with Brooke to make sure it's not during like the possibility of like an indoor recess or any other times that we've used the gym in the past. And we don't access the gym to get to recess at all anymore. Anyway, we just use the outside doors.
So
So
we could do it around the sense entirely, so we don't have to worry about that.
Doors are lockable,
Yep.
security, and all that.
yeah, as soon as we lock the door into, between the bathrooms and the cafeteria, that door just has to get closed and it's locked. And we have signs we can put up and use them already once.
And I'm confident we can come up with something that works. I just want to make sure it was okay for them. And that was a board decision initially, but before it was something that was managed. Right?
Yes.
We'll just follow up, maybe definitely next week.
Nothing urgent.
Anything else on athletics to schedule?
Ooh, I do have one more thing.
Please.
I wonder if we considered looking at more junipers, or because of the use has increased, if there's ever been any discussion about more help there. I mean, Wiley does a fantastic job, but I have seen that he's been able to do less. Since he's been more people, and I just wondered if that ever comes up, or if everyone's happy with.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you give some specific things, we
Yeah,
can
okay.
start there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working with Riley for so
Yeah.
long, it's just, he's really such a, does a great job, I just think the use has increased a lot, and so it's nothing to do with his quality of work, it's just the time that he has to do it, and he's a full person, well, it's not, yeah, for.
Well, we can look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get back
Yeah, we
to
can
us
look it up.
if you see specific problems and.
And, this is some of Wiley raising his hand saying, I just don't have time, and some of you raising your hand saying, this isn't gonna be done.
Yeah,
And that would be the trigger.
no, I don't think he has time, I don't think that he's not doing it, I think he just has more on his plate now.
But let's, I would say, let's say, here are the things that need to get done.
Yeah.
Do you have the?
Here's not what's given.
Yeah,
Right, and if he says, I don't have time, then it doesn't have to like that. If he says, oh, I forgot about that, then I forgot about it.
You send me like just a few things I can, or whatever you feel. I can.
All right, Cindy, I see you back there. Is there a particular thing you wanted to?
I'm just a bump on a log right now. You,
You and I.
Nothing else to do, Sylvia?
nothing. Do you believe that?
No. Let me jump down to other, because there's one topic I wanted to bring up before we get to the gymnasium for election issues. Are you guys plugged in? Are you guys been made aware of the issues of financing of the race center?
I'm not.
I think
just what has been discussed at the select board meeting.
Right, we had a presentation at the select board, and if they're in extremis, I just wanted to, and that could involve impact the preschool. And I know
Summer programming for the young children.
for the young children, and I know, I think a couple of school board meetings ago, you were you thought they were very important programs for the children, so.
Not even the community, this came up today about, trying to find people that can work at the mountain. And one of the conditions of the work at the mountain, they need to have some care for their young children. And so in order to really work more days at the mountain, we have to have the ability to get the employment. So it's not just.
Numbers don't bear that out. I would say. You only 6 kids, right?
But it
Right
maybe
now,
not.
seasonal.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's currently, there's 6 kids enrolled in the program.
Correct.
We are going to take some steps later this week. The resort's going to provide scholarship monies to the Ray Center so that we can increase that population.
But also, no, it's also, we're near too.
Right.
We haven't anywhere near the penetration on marketing. No one knows it exists. We need to get the word out there. We need to get the marketing out there, and we're willing to help with that. As a resort, as a school board, as a resort. When we looked at this as a school board, we felt it was very important to have as a community. The young families, they choose where they're gonna be raising their children at that preschool age. And we want them to be a part of this town. When we were down to 11 kids registered for school, and what was that, June of 2020?
16 kids are June 2021 to 64. Hopefully the pandemic.
But I don't think we want to bank on that. So keeping that healthy and operational and giving it a good, good college effort to see if we can, make the change. Also, we all are looking at the wastewater treatment center. We're looking at trying to hire more people to run that. It's gonna be something that's even gonna be needed, I'm sure, for those individuals.
Which is part of our housing conversation.
Housing and childcare are the two top concerns. So are you looking for us to have discussion about?
No, I just want to make sure you guys were aware of some of the issues going on.
I think that's a
And
conversation.
I reached out in response to people who sent me to just give a few ideas on grants, but.
Yeah, and really, from the Race Center board standpoint, it doesn't matter really where the money in our situation, it doesn't matter which budget the money is in, because it's all the same taxpayers. We don't have to worry about different towns and differing priorities, right? It's whatever we're doing as a community. But the Race Center, even to run the preschool, right, the numbers that they showed us, they're gonna need help
They've come to the select board and asked for an increase in their appropriation.
Might be good for us to provide them with the numbers that we did a few years back. So it would take to do it within the school.
Well, and that is important, is to understand what the different requirements are. Like if it goes under the school, then you gotta do X, Y, and Z.
There's a lot of
and that's,
licensing. There's
that's
a
right.
list.
And
Yeah.
so,
Big task.
yeah, so. Right, but maybe providing expertise or information to the Race Center,
I know
Still
that we
funding it
did-
out.
I know we did a few years ago, when we had our preschool,
Mhm.
our district, we work with the preschools that we have, reached out, and provide some information there. But it comes down a lot to the legal requirements.
yes, right,
Associated with running a public preschool.
Right.
Are very different than the private.
Or of a town
Correct.
doing it.
Yeah. I mean, truly, I think the most cost affordable option is having private.
Which is what the Race Center is saying.
yeah,
But they're licensed.
Correct.
they are licensed.
Yeah.
Licensed as a private.
Public.
And I think there's also a difference between calling it like a preschool and a daycare, right? There's a huge licensing difference.
Yes.
No, we just wanted to make you.
We gotta make sure you were hearing things. We heard they've asked us for money to be able to run, that the preschool program could be in jeopardy, that the summer camp program could be in jeopardy next year. And as I said, just making sure we're all hearing that. All right, the use of the last item I have is the use of the gymnasium for polling stations. So everything went well yesterday. Kudos to the moderator, Patty Purtle, and all her helpers, ballot clerks and supervisors of the checklist and town clerk and deputy town clerk. It all ran in an hour and 15 minutes. That was quicker than I thought. For 332 votes.
Well, there weren't as many names on the ballot as there were.
No. But it was very efficient.
No, I think
It was.
by all accounts, I mean, certainly from my observations, it's worked extremely well. There were a couple issues that did come up that speak to using, depending upon the resorts helping us out of the goodness of their heart and their business and allowing us to use the facilities at no cost. Two of the issues that came up yesterday, one was that the device that's used to lift, people in wheelchairs off the road, it was not working. And so that's a major ding, I think. Now, the one person that did use the wheelchair came in the day, so he was able to go around the side and come in come in the back, but if anyone had needed it in the evening, that would have been, after 4:30, that would have been a problem that would have been dinged on. The other issue had to do with the loss of power earlier that morning and not having a backup generator because we have to run the election. That became apparent after the fact, I guess I should say. So the select board would like to reopen the question of returning to the gymnasium for next year. If not, I think our option is going to be to sign a contract with a facility in town that will meet the requirements we have to meet. The select board is responsible for ensuring that the venue meets all the conditions necessary so that the moderator can do his or her thing. Next year, we have only one election and the town deliberative session, so it's a light year.
Well, I think, I think I heard we're gonna have three. We're gonna have
Well,
school deliberative,
Yes,
the wastewater deliberative. and
Well, yes, I was getting to that. So, in terms of elections, though, in the day, we only have one, the 11 to 7, or for the town office. Excuse me, 11 to 5, that's right, the deliberative session after that. For local offices, town offices, but the following year, I think we get hit with 4. Presidential primary, local, September primary, and the general election in 2024. So again, this is what the select board is looking at. We again would like to appeal to be able to use the gymnasium for the election part, as well as what we're thinking of now is a bifurcated deliberative session, one just on the wastewater treatment facility, given the nature of the project that we discussed. And the other one covering all the other items that we usually talk about, budgetary and other sorts of warrant articles.
yeah, and it actually, well,
Yes.
yeah, they're,
Both the
they're
deliberative sessions.
Yeah. or a weekend. or
We could do
however
it,
you want
we
to
could do it on
schedule
the
it.
weekend and
We have it
day,
scheduled. Yeah,
right, but we
But-
can't change the election day.
yeah, that's correct. The
That's-
elections would
that's
be the polling time from 11 to 5.
5 and a Tuesday,
But it falls on Tuesday right after your deliberative
the
session.
next day.
So the setup historically has been off the side of the chair, so maybe we can recreate that for next year. I don't, however you guys want to work, it isn't something we have to solve today, but
I'd
if
like
you're
to-
willing to talk about it, you'd like to look at it.
I think we should talk about this, but it's some moderator here.
Yep.
Because.
Yeah, that's
you
fine.
know, she has a lot of input in this, and she can say, it didn't go well, it did go well, I can be flexible here, I can't be flexible there. I know one of the challenges is if you poll in one location, and deliberate in another location, the people that are polling can't be part of the deliberative because they.
And that's been a problem in
And that's
the
been a
past,
problem.
because the town clerk and the supervisors of the
Right.
checklist have to be involved.
Right.
And we don't want to confuse voters either, they can go to 2 different places
Understood. And so.
on the same day, that's absolutely correct.
Right, another possibility is you poll one day and get the deliberative sections separated. Right, since there's already gonna be 2 deliberative sections, one's gonna, there's not already 2 today, we have the school board that's unrelated to polling. We have the polling and then the deliberative session, right, those are connected, but then there's gonna be a third now, so. Another
Yes.
option is to disconnect them all, would be another option.
I think the last time we had just local elections, we were in the gymnasium, correct? Am I correct in that?
The one.
The last time we just had the local elections, which was last year, 2021,
Yeah.
you agreed to allow us to
Right,
be
it
in
was-
the gymnasium. For these reasons, the reasons you just mentioned.
Right, the moderator was pretty adamant at the time. And, you know, people have changed.
I understand. Yeah, it's just something historic. I mean, I think you know my position on it. I don't want to speak for the rest of the board. I don't know if either board member would like to
Well,
address the issue.
I think we ought to go back to school. I mean, whether or not the school does a recreation day starting at 11 o'clock and free up, to get the kids out of there, or whether we have extra police protection and keep the doors locked, or, it seems to me there's a way to solve this. And still be able to use the gymnasium. I mean, I don't know if anybody else did, I had residents come up to me and say, hey, the town facility, how come we can't use it? They said, well, the school board wants to, make sure the kids are safe, which they heard. But, I don't know, I think we can find a way to do it. But
Without the kids taking the day off, I don't see how we would. Respectfully.
We can secure it. We secure presidential candidates here before we can secure that.
I think we've been down, I think we've been down this,
Always go to that.
this discussion before as
The same
the
question, how do we take the
analysis of, risk analysis.
Maybe another option,
avoidance signal?
another option is doing an all-school field trip if we've done days of having this off-site.
Which is on one day, but next time forward,
Oh,
and that's a major disruption.
Well, the deliberative session is from the town perspective, you not have to be done during the school. If we can set up chairs in enough time at the end of school or during the school day too, as soon as the school is finished with the use of the gym. I think we can do all the deliberative sessions.
Right.
The only thing we're talking about is total.
I think
And
Tim
really
referred to
the-
2024.
Oh, the 2024
It
is
was-
totally, yes. Because you're talking, four different.
So. Not gonna solve it here. I request that we have the moderator get working on this.
Maybe we can just bring her next joint meeting, we can discuss it, you guys have an opportunity to discuss it among yourselves. I mean, I think if you don't agree with allowing us to hold the election in the gym, then I think how much time will we need to make sure we can get a contract to be able to have an election? It wouldn't take that long. Okay, so we got time.
Yeah.
Before I think it's March 14th, or it's late in March.
This year, or this coming year,
2023, I think.
yes, March 4th.
14th. Okay, so we'll just, again, we're just registering our desire and tabling the, further discussion. Everybody is happy with that. That's all I have. Cindy, you had raised your hand at one point, so.
The only
Sorry.
reason I raised my hand is many years ago, the residents of Waterville Valley were allowed to have art classes, fly tying classes, different classes in the Ray Center. And there's basically nowhere now to hold those classes because even the school and the gymnasium are full now. Is there any availability to be able to use the Ray Center for some of those outside projects for townspeople?
Not with the preschool, because the actual area where we used to do those classes is the classroom
Okay.
for the preschool. And it stays set up as a classroom.
You may recall, Cindy, I think it was at this year's deliberative session, or we had a public hearing beforehand. And the select board at the time was concerned about the lack of indoor space for more activities, going back to some of these we did in the past. And we had originally planned to put forward a $50,000 engineering study to actually construct a new building, a community center where we could hold these sorts of events, but we got let's just say we got a lot of negative feedback, so we decided in the public hearing, so we decided to pull that warrant article. And you may see, just getting back to the CIP, we've pulled it, given everything else we have going on. We've pulled it from the CIP. Do we push it
Well, it's
back?
Still in there,
But-
it's been pushed back.
But it's been pushed back to 2052 or?
No.
25.
Not quite. Yeah, we pushed it back several years.
2024 for the engineering,
Right.
the construction placeholder is in 25.
So we're not going to address it, I think, for another year or two, but. Yes, you've identified an issue that we've not
Yeah.
unfortunately been able to resolve.
Just wanted you to hear.
That's. Thank you.
Yep.
Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say? I'll take a motion to join the joint meeting. school board and select board.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. What's tomorrow night? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah, that. As a planning board,